So these are the four techniques of biasing a MOSFET device. Please remember, we need to maintain a constant drain current irrespective of any variations in input voltage VGS or output voltage VDS. You know that voltage gain is nothing but the ratio of change in output voltage to the corresponding change in input voltage, that is delta VDS by delta VGS. To get an appreciable voltage gain or to get a proper faithful linear amplification, you have to maintain a constant drain current as well. Okay, output current should be always maintain constant. So for that, the Q point or the DC operating point should be in saturation region. So for that, we are using these four techniques. So first we'll discuss how to fix the Q point by using VGS, that is biasing by fixing VGS. So how to fix VGS? As you know, VGS is nothing but the voltage across gate and source terminals of the MOSFET. How we are fixing VGS? So this type of biasing technique is the most straightforward approach or the most simplest way of fixing the Q point. But it has its own drawbacks, but still we can use this particular technique because it is a most straightforward approach. So how we are going to fix this VGS? For that, we should take a power supply VDD, and by using a voltage divider network, we will be able to fix a constant VGS or constant voltage across the gate and source terminal. So that is the first type of biasing by fixing VGS. Please recall that why you are going for biasing, to maintain a constant drain current irrespective of any variation in input signals, input voltage. This is a circuit that we have. This is a circuit that we have to fix VGS. Take down the circuit. So in the circuit, we have shown an N-channel MOSFET, N-channel enhancement type MOSFET. Please see that arrow mark in the source terminal. It should be outside. It should be pointed outside. That is away from the source terminal. So this is your N-channel E MOSFET or NMOS. So across the gate and source terminal, I have marked the voltage VGS and we have a drain resistance RD. Please note that the source terminal is directly connected to ground here. So we don't use any kind of resistance in source terminal. It is directly shorted to the ground. The source is directly shorted to ground. As a result, you can say that the source voltage will be zero. The voltage at source terminal will be zero. Why? Because the source is directly grounded. So the voltage at source terminal will be zero. And also you can see I've used a voltage divider network by making use of two resistances RG1 and RG2. And from this I have derived the equation for VGS. VGS is the voltage across the gate and source, which is further equal to the voltage across RG2. RG2 is the gate resistance. We have two resistances connected at the gate terminal. One is RG1 that connects across the gate and the supply voltage VDD, this one. And the second resistance is RG2, which is connected between the gate and ground. So they are named as RG1 and RG2 respectively. Clear? So this forms a voltage divider network or potential divider network, which will divide the supply voltage VDD into two halves. So one portion of VDD will be across RG1 and the remaining fraction or the remaining portion will drop across RG2. So by properly choosing the values of RG1 and RG2, you can set the value of VRG2, that is nothing but VGS. You know that for parallel network, the voltages will be same. So whatever you are having the voltage across RG2, that will be equivalent to VGS, isn't it? So VGS can be written as VRG2, which is equal to the supply voltage VDD into the resistance RG2, because across RG2 only we are taking VGS. So RG2 divided by the sum of the resistances, that is RG1 and RG2. Now, think about the values of RG1 and RG2. If I'm choosing the two resistances identical, means their specifications or their values are same, then what will be the relationship between VG1 and VG2? If RG1 is equal to RG2, if RG1 is equal to RG2, what will be the relationship between VG1 and or VRG1 and VRG2? VRG1 is the voltage across RG1 and VRG2 is the voltage across RG2. Yes, Rakshit MV. Rakshit.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Tell me the answer. What will happen if RG1 is equal to RG2? Substitute that condition in the equation and tell me what will be the relationship between VRG2 and VRG1. The condition is RG2 is equal to RG1. Substitute the condition in this equation. Yes, are you there, Rakshit? Melita?
Yes, sir.
Yes. What will happen when the two resistances are same?
VGS becomes VDD by 2, half of VDD.
Yes, very good. So VGS becomes VDD by 2. So the total supply voltage what we have is VDD, out of which half of the VDD will drop across RG2. So remaining half will drop across RG1, which means the voltage across RG1 and RG2 will be same. So if we are choosing identical resistances, we will be able to divide the supply voltage equally across RG1 and RG2. Okay. So suppose I'm using 12 volt supply voltage as VDD, then 6 volt will be across RG1 and remaining 6 volt will be dropped across RG2. So likewise, we can choose the appropriate values of RG1 and RG2 and we can fix the value of VGS. Okay. So if RG2 is greater than RG1, the question is if RG2 is greater than RG1, which voltage will be higher? If RG2 is, I hope you are taking the important points. If RG2 is greater than RG1, which voltage will be higher? Is it VRG2 or VRG1? Rohan Patil, 97.
Yes, sir.
Yes, if RG2 is greater than RG1, which voltage will be higher? Whether it is VRG2 or VRG1?
VRG1, sir.
VRG1. How? Do you think about this equation? You see this equation? If numerator increases, that is if RG2 increases, VRG2 will be more, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, more resistance means more voltage drop across that resistance. Understood?
Yes, sir.
So if the resistance value RG1 is less, then voltage across RG1 will be less. So more voltage will be dropped across RG2, whereas across RG1, the voltage will be less. I hope it is clear now. So likewise, we'll be able to design a potential divider network for a specific VGS. Is that clear? Now, coming to this graph, this shows the significance or limitation of this particular technique. So what technique we have adopted here? We have taken a potential divider network so as to fix a constant voltage across gate and source terminal. So whether that technique is good or not, our objective is to maintain a constant ID irrespective of any change in VGS. VGS is a constant voltage, right? VGS here it is constant because I have taken a potential divider network and have maintained a constant voltage across gate and source. Apart from this DC voltage, I'll be giving an AC input signal also towards the gate terminal, isn't it? Suppose this is acting as an amplifier circuit, and normally I'll use this gate terminal so as to give an input AC signal which is to be amplified. That I can represent it as small letter VGS. So this will be your AC signal, and this is the DC bias voltage. And you can expect some variations or fluctuations in this input signal, because of which some fluctuations will happen in your drain current as well. Then your Q point will get disturbed. Means it may switch from saturation region to triode region. As a result, that faithful amplification will not take place for all the input signal levels. Either some portion of output waveform may get clipped off. So that linear amplification will not take place. So we have to ensure the Q point or the operating point to be stable in that particular saturation region itself, as far as the MOSFET is concerned. Whether if you are going for BJT, it is an active region, whereas in your MOSFET, it is in saturation region. So that Q point shifting, it should not happen, irrespective of any variation in your input signal. That is what is the requirement of biasing. Correct? So the next graph shows whether this technique is relevant or not for our application. Okay, all of you take down this graph. I'll give you 2 minutes. You can draw this graph. In x-axis, we have VGS. Please note small letter V with capital GS. Small letter V with capital GS in x-axis and small letter I with capital D in y-axis. That means this is showing the effect of both AC and DC. This is showing the effect of both AC and DC. Means I've been using a DC supply for fixing the biasing. Apart from that, I'm giving an AC input signal to be amplified. So the circuit analysis takes the effect of both AC as well as DC. So to indicate that, in x-axis, I'm plotting V with capital GS, small letter V with capital suffix. Subscript. Here also, small letter I with capital D as the subscript. Now, this graph is plotted for two devices, two MOSFETs, device 1 and device 2. Device 1 and device 2, and you are having two different graphs. You can see that device 2 has already started its conduction earlier when compared to device 1. That is, for a small VGS, device 2 has already started its conduction, whereas device 1 is taking, or it needs more positive voltage in order for the conduction to take place. Why so? Why there is a deviation in this particular graph? Or why I am showing two distinct curves for each devices, device 1 and device 2? Why so? Can anybody answer? Unmute and speak. No matter if it is wrong also. Tanmaya? 112, Tanmaya. You tell me what would be the reason? Why I'm getting two different curves for device 1 and device 2? What could be the reason? I'll give a clue. Device 2 has already started its conduction for a small VGS, whereas device 1 needs more positive gate voltage for the conduction to take place. So what would be the difference between the two devices in terms of one voltage? No idea? Yesterday,
For different VDS values,
different VDS. No. The difference lies in threshold voltage. The difference lies in threshold voltage. Yesterday, I told you about the threshold voltage. It is a minimum voltage required for the MOSFET at the gate terminal to start its conduction. Correct? So, device 1 is having larger threshold voltage. So, it requires more positive gate voltage for the channel to get induced. Isn't it? Already we have discussed the operation of the MOSFET device. So there we told like the channel will get induced only after giving a minimum threshold. So we should be able to give a gate voltage, a positive gate voltage at least equal to threshold voltage. Now whatever excess voltage you are giving, which is sufficiently greater than threshold voltage, that is what is called as overdrive voltage. Okay. So device 1 is having more threshold voltage, whereas device 2 is having less threshold voltage. Clear? Now, another observation from this graph is for same gate voltage VGS, I've taken one instantaneous gate voltage VGS and I'm comparing the two currents ID1 and ID2, where ID1 is the drain current flowing through the device 1 for that particular voltage VGS. Again, I'm analyzing the current flow ID2 for the device 2 at the same voltage VGS. Both looks different, right? The magnitude of drain current ID2 as well as the magnitude of drain current ID1 are different. Even though I have fixed my VGS. For both the devices, I'm using the same biasing circuit, whatever I have mentioned in the last slide. Okay. So this was the previous slide. It shows the, yes, this circuit, it shows a biasing, isn't it? This is a biasing circuit of an amplifier. So by using this biasing circuit, I have fixed a constant VGS for both the devices, device 1 as well as device 2. But still, I am observing a significant change in the drain current ID for same voltage VGS. Is that clear for you? So is this a desirable thing or a limitation? So this will be the limitation of this biasing circuit. Now, why this happened actually? Even though you are able to fix VGS by using that potential divider network RG1 and RG2 and a supply voltage VDD, but still for the same value of VGS, the magnitude of the drain current ID1 and ID2 are different. So that is a limitation of this straightforward approach of biasing MOSFET by using VGS. Now, what could be the reason for that? I hope you have taken down this graph. Can I move to the next slide? Yes or no? So these are the two equations, whatever we have discussed yesterday. That is, we have two different operations, region of operations like triode and saturation. Yesterday already we have discussed the triode region and saturation region. In the triode region, we are expecting, it is the first part of the triode region, we are expecting a linear variation in current with respect to the input voltage, isn't it? I mean, ID and VDS. ID is linearly varying with respect to VDS. The first part of the triode region, and later what is happening is that we are observing some bend, isn't it? Because of the punch through effect or the pinch off process, and later it is becoming a constant. That is what is called a saturation. That is, for higher value of VDS, the channel is getting pinched off at the drain current, because of which that bend has occurred or a transition has occurred from linear portion to saturation portion. So that will occur in the later part of the triode region. So initially it was linear, then we have a bend, and then it is becoming constant. That is nothing but your saturation region. So the relationship between the drain current ID as well as the drain source voltage VDS is given by two equations, one for triode region and another for saturation region. Because the behavior is different, so the equation will be also different. Now, if you see these two equations, even though I'm able to fix VGS constant, VGS is constant, right? VGS is constant, but still from the previous graph, with the replacement of the device, ID1 and ID2 is different. That is, the drain current will be different. What would be the probable reasons for this? The reason is the difference in the threshold voltage VT, isn't it? I told you before. That is, device 1 is having different threshold voltage and device 2 is having different threshold voltage. Because of this reason, device 2 has already started its conduction well in advance when compared to device 1. Apart from that, the manufacturing technology, that will result in different aspect ratio. What do you mean by aspect ratio? It is a ratio between the channel width to channel length. Aspect ratio is the ratio between the channel width to channel length, W by L. So that will be different for different MOSFETs. So whenever you are replacing one device with the other device, the W by L ratio will be varying, and the oxide capacitance COX will also get varied, because of which Kn dash will be changing. I told you Kn dash is not the universal constant, isn't it? What was the equation for Kn dash? It is equivalent to mu n into COX. That is a product of mobility and the capacitance of the oxide layer. So if COX is changing with respect to the device, normally it will get affected. Kn dash will also get affected. So because of which ID will change. So even if we fix the value of VGS, so this is the main point. Even if we fix the value of VGS by making use of the potential divider network, but still the drain current ID becomes very much temperature dependent. Okay, so what will be the next reason? That is, with change in temperature, ID will change. One is the device replacement. Because of the device replacement, VT will change, capacitance will change, aspect ratio will change. Because of that, ID will get changed. Apart from that, ID is also changing according to the temperature variations. So when ID changes, you can say that the Q point is no longer stable. It has migrated from saturation region to triode region. The Q point is not stable. It has been shifted from the required saturation region towards the triode region, because of which the amplification will not happen properly. The linear amplification will not happen properly. So that is a main drawback of the first technique. What was the first technique? Biasing by fixing VGS. Any doubts? Pramod, any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay, good. Okay. Now, to compensate for this limitation, we have the second type of biasing technique. Please take down. Biasing by fixing VG and connecting a resistance in the source. Please note the difference. Here we are not fixing VGS. Here we are fixing only VG. In the previous case, you were concentrating on VGS because the source was directly grounded there. And we have not used any extra resistance RS at the source. But here, in the second kind of biasing techniques, we are using a resistance RS that is connected at the source terminal. So we are concentrating on biasing by fixing VG, not VGS. Okay, by fixing VG. VG means it is voltage at the gate with respect to ground. In the previous case, it was the voltage at the gate with respect to source, but in that case, source was grounded. That's why we took it as VGS. So here we can't take it VGS because in the source we have connected an external resistance RS. Source is not directly grounded. We have connected an external source resistance RS. That is the difference. So in the second technique, we are connecting a resistance in the source lead as shown in the figure. Apart from that, we are using a fixed DC voltage at the gate VG. Fixed DC voltage at the gate VG. Please draw the circuit diagram. Now, why I have put like this in the figure? See, why I have shown like this? No matter whatever circuitry you have shown there. Maybe you will be connecting some loads, active load or something like that, that we will deal in the second module. Okay. Whatever the circuitry it is being driven here, that is in the drain terminal, irrespective of this, we will be able to fix the Q point properly if we are using a source resistance RS along with a fixed voltage VG. Now write the equation for VG. VG is equal to VGS plus IDRS. How this equation came? VG equal to VGS plus IDRS. You will take the lower loop. You can consider this as a closed loop. Okay. So this is your input voltage VG, out of which a portion will be dropped across the gate and source and another portion will be across RS. So what will be the voltage across RS? It is nothing but the current into resistance. So from the supply voltage VDD, here there will be some supply voltage VDD. So from that, a current ID will be flowing through the device. So that ID into RS, that is nothing but your voltage across RS. You know that source current is approximately equal to drain current and IG is equal to 0. IG, gate current is 0. So since gate current is 0, we can take the drain current approximately same as that of source current. So the voltage across the source resistance RS will be ID into RS according to the Ohm's law. So the fixed voltage VG is getting separated or it is getting partitioned into two. One portion will be across gate and source and another portion will be across RS. The voltage drop across RS is shown here, that is ID RS. So according to your Kirchhoff's voltage law, that is the sum of the voltage across a closed circuit is 0. According to your KVL, you can write the equation as VG is equal to VGS plus IDRS. So this is the equation that you got by applying KVL in that lower portion of the circuit or lower loop. Now, by making use of this circuit, you are going to substantiate that this technique will outperform well when compared to the previous technique. What was the previous technique? In the previous technique, I've been trying to fix VGS without any source resistance, correct? But here I am using a source resistance extra at the source terminal. Apart from that, I am concentrating on fixing VG instead of VGS. Now, what do you mean by VG? VG is the voltage at the gain terminal with respect to ground, whose equation is given by VGS plus IDRS. Now, how this technique is going to fix your Q point in a desirable region, that I'm going to explain now. You have to listen that. It is very, very, very important. Please listen. Afterwards, you can write. Okay. So the objective is how this technique is going to establish or fix your Q point at the saturation region itself. We are not allowing the Q point to shift from saturation to triode. But anyway, ID is going to change. Due to some reasons, ID is going to change. What could be that reason? I've already listed those reasons in the previous slide. One is due to the device replacement, the threshold voltage will change. Then Kn dash may get changed because of the change in COX, isn't it? Then because of the temperature variations, ID may change. So the change in ID cannot be, or it is unavoidable. Anyway, ID will be changed. ID will get changed. But the thing is, the change can be controlled in the opposite side. Suppose if ID is trying to increase due to some reasons. Why I have listed due to some reasons? Because already the reasons I have listed in the previous slide. The reasons are the change in COX, the change in temperature, then the change in Kn dash, even the change in VT, that is the threshold voltage due to the device replacement. So because of all these, ID will get changed for sure. But when ID is trying to increase, we can make the ID to decrease. Okay, manually will be that by fixing the proper resistance RS, we'll be able to control that change. So how that is happening, how that mechanism is going to happen here, that I'm explaining now. Listen, if ID increases, normally IDRS increases, isn't it? When current increases, the voltage drop will also increase. So when ID increases, the drop across IDRS will also increase. The drop IDRS will also increase. Now see this equation. VG is constant. Assume that a perfect DC voltage I have set across gate. A perfect DC voltage I have set across gate and ground. Maybe it will be a battery, or it can be a voltage divider network as I have shown in the previous case. So for this equation to be satisfied, okay, for this equation VG to be satisfied or VG to be constant, see, less than 1 minute, this meeting will get end. Please rejoin back.